We grew up with lot of curiosity in our mind. Who am I? Why am I here? What is happiness? Am I happy? What is the purpose of this life? Individually, we know some of it. Collectively, we are trying to find all of it. We are a social media platform guiding people to find purpose in education and career, love and relationships, health and well-being. Together, let us transform the world into a better place. Let us start discovering our purpose. Come join hands. Ask questions. Share your story. Book a mentor. Find a job you love. Come share the journey of life.
Hello everyone, I'm Sneha Patil, your host for today. A warm welcome on behalf of Gyanology, and I am alumni-led initiative to today's Ask Me Anything session with Mr. Vineet Saraiwala, founder and volunteer at A Typical Advantage, on the Labor Day special, Are People with Disabilities Ready for Gig Economy? A recent report by Equin.in, a recruitment platform, shows that of the 1.34 crore PWDs who are employable in India, only 22% of them have jobs, making the rest of them unemployable. The pandemic has increased this gap further. Mr. Vineet Saraiwala is the founder at A Typical Advantage, which is Planet's first talent platform to hire talent by product or art made by person with disabilities, PWDs. He has transformed how people with disabilities shop across India through pioneering concepts like Sabke Liye, which is blend of assistive services and accessible spaces, and Quiet Hour, which is a sensor-friendly experience for individuals with autism. He has pursued his post-graduation from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and strongly believes that generation of compassion is the only way to make the world a better place. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you, Mr. Vineet. This session will be moderated by Rahul Singh, a banker by the day and writer by the night. He is the secretary of IIM Bangalore Alumni Association, Singapore. He serves as the principal of Corporate Advisory Group of IIM Udaipur and is Academic Council Board member of Jaipuria Institute of Management. Rahul is initiator of Gyanology, an IIM Bangalore alumni-led initiative, which aims to democratize wisdom. He has authored several books on purpose of life, such as You Know the Glory, Not the Story, From Engineering to Ikigai, and An Atheist Gets the Gita. We have an additional request for today to please join us in saving an estimated over 4,000 lives by helping us raise 75,000 USD to purchase 100 oxygen concentrators. A group of NTU, SMU, and NUS alumni is running a campaign on Milap, created by NUS alumni Anuj Vishwanathan, a platform to source 100 oxygen concentrators for India from overseas supplier. These oxygen concentrators shall be given to two organizations, namely CEL and Mercy Mission, working on the ground to help COVID-19 patients struggling to get access to medical oxygen. With this, I would like to hand over to Rahul.
Thank you. Thank you. So you can see the QR code on your screens. Could we share that screen again, please? Which is the QR code? So if you'd like to donate, please scan that QR code and you will go to a link. The link is milap.org/sumo. Sumo is Singapore University's Mission Oxygen. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Sneha. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Hi, Vineet. How are you?
Good, good. Hi, Rahul. How are you?
I am good. I am good. So kind of you to help us. I know that you are extremely busy given the COVID situation. And in fact, a lot of our participants in this Zoom setting, I'm very sure, are also struggling with their loved ones and dear ones fighting COVID situations. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us in such a difficult situation that is for India right now. But it also happens to be a May 1st, which is the Labor Day. Now, globally, we celebrate this day as the day where we where we basically champion people working in the workforce. Now, let me go straight into the topic. So this word disability, and there is a lot of stigma around it. Is it disability? Is it handicap? Is it differently abled? What is the right word when we talk about disability?
Yeah, I think this is the most important question which people are struggling, brands are struggling, and you'll see all kinds of nomenclature. Specially abled is another term, differently abled is another term. This is again, I'll go with the United Nations Convention, and they call it persons with disability. Ideally, and I think it completely makes all rational to use persons with disability, because first you are a person. Disability is not an identity. And if you look at the words like specially abled and differently abled, I think we all are specially abled and differently abled by any stance. When you use persons with disability, for example, let's say I am a person with a disability, there is no harm in saying that I have less vision, because that is a condition that does not define me at all. And it also has a lens of equality to it. If you look at it, either you classify people with disability as more humans, which is saying that, you know, they have sixth sense, extra powers, divinity is there, God has created them. You'll see people worshipping people with disabilities. So you are taking that lens as more humans, or let's say a lens of less human, saying that they cannot do anything, they have less abilities than us. A lot of sympathy is there. So the correct way to treat any person with disability is like how you treat anyone else, as your friend, colleague, co-worker, or person with disability. Let me tell you, blind, deaf are completely acceptable terms. So, and Rahul, I think the initiative in Milap started by Singapore alumni, I think I'll also appeal, please contribute. I think that's a very important initiative needed in our country.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, you know, in India we say andhe ko andha mat bolo, or just now abhi aapne bola ki it's completely okay to say somebody is blind. Why do you say so?
See, Rahul, we need to differentiate between two things. One is condition and the second is disease. When you, I'll just give you my example of, for example, my parents were always trying to say that, you know, with whatever homeopathy, allopathy, medicine, religion, try to cure my sight, saying that, oh God, please give his sight back. And they have been trying for 30 years. But if you look at my condition medically, it cannot be cured. It is completely incurable. So it's a condition, it's a long-term condition in which I am living with. There is nothing wrong with me fundamentally in my body. I can't see. So that is again a long-term condition, right? It does not hamper my performance in any ways. And now with technology coming up, I think there is enough opportunities if you have the ability as such. So that is why we need to differentiate between a disease and a condition. We believe that disability is a condition. Like, for example, if a person is on a wheelchair or uses wheelchair, that again does not define him, and there is nothing like it does not spread. Like, as people say that, you know, there is still a lot of stigma with that. So once you differentiate between a disease and a condition, I guess most of the lens you'll understand.
Sure, sure. So you said that it doesn't hamper your performance in any way, but I would like to ask you, have you ever been discriminated? And even before that, tell us more about your condition. What exactly are you suffering with? Or what is a disease? Or I don't know what is the right term there, but I'm still struggling with the right term here. But you can tell us more about the condition that you have.
Sure. So Rahul, I have retinitis pigmentosa. It's a degenerative eye condition in which vision or sight keeps on deteriorating as age progresses. So in standard 8, I could, let's say, play cricket, even ride two-wheelers. But it's like, I tell everyone that it's a perfect example of a lot of spiritual sense, which tells you that impermanence is the only permanence, and that is a way to live in equanimity. So my condition, vision has kept on deteriorating as my age has progressed. And right now I have only 10% vision remaining in my right eye. I don't have any vision in the left eye. That was a tragic surgery when I was in standard 11. And yeah, so this is about my current eye condition in short.
And have you ever been discriminated, even though you say that your inability to see as well as others doesn't hamper your abilities to perform?
So, Rahul, there have been few stories of employers discriminating in, let's say, the final placements when I was there in IIM Bangalore. Most of them actually don't understand disability, and they said that, let's say, for example, how would I work independently in rural setting, or even as basics of using computer and smartphone on your own. They were clueless on how a person with visual disability or a blind person can use computers and smartphone. So even this basic awareness is not there within recruiters. And Rahul, since you are part of my batch, you would have seen me working or seen me moving in classes and things like that. You would have seen that there is a challenge, and obviously it's a setback. But having said that, done, there are enough ways on how you can navigate your life with positivity and optimism.
Sure, sure. And you are not alone in this journey. Most people don't know, because your brother is not as vocal on these topics as you are. But both of you together joined IIM Bangalore. Two of you, and I know that your brother has the same condition as you. Could you tell us how that happened? How did both of you land up in India's most prestigious business school, despite whatever hurdles you had?
Rahul, here I would like to, I was seeing your the video of Gyanology, and it says, finding the purpose. And I think serendipity is the word for both of us. So having lost significant enough eyesight, we were clueless on how to use computers and smartphone. We were both good in studies, and accidentally we got a chance to meet 3 teachers in Bangalore who used to train people with visual disability for common aptitude test. And they actually taught us, let me tell you, Rahul, it was like they used to spend 4 to 5 hours with us every day. And when we asked them for a fees, they outrightly refused. And also the coaching which we did, they provided books in soft copy. That made a lot of difference. But primarily these 3 teachers who used to give lessons to us on Skype. And it was quite nice to make to almost all the B schools in the country, including private institutions. So both of us made it into almost all the IIMs together. And yeah, so that's the story. We are thankful to 3 teachers who made this happen for us. So yeah, mix of serendipity. Otherwise, I don't know where we would have been.
Sure, sure. And now I understand that you are empowering others to get into the labor force. So could you tell us more about how Atypical Advantage started? What was the journey like? I know you started your career with Big Bazaar. So can you walk us through how did exactly Atypical Advantage come to life?
Sure. So basically, as part of Big Bazaar, I realized that there are so many people who want to shop and be in public spaces, but could not do so because of their disability. Or maybe there are, if you look at India, India is primarily inaccessible in terms of ramp, public transportation, infrastructure. So that India has never created that infrastructure, and the journey has just started for India. But if you look at the West, it has always taken a route in terms of legal legislations. You'll see ramps in all the public buildings, buses, and transportation also again are completely accessible. Lifts are accessible. So I realized that there are also a lot of people with disability. And I was like, when Sneha was mentioning about the statistics, let me tell you, the statistics are way higher. For example, United Nations pegs Indian disability numbers to be as high as 130 million people with disabilities. If you look at a country like United States, it officially tells you that 10% of the entire population of the country has some form of disability or the other. So how could Indian numbers be hardly 1% or 2%? It has to be more than that. So again, coming back to the story. So when I realized that there are so many people who could not shop, we created the infrastructure, we gave shopping assistance, and that was the starting of a program called Sabke Liye. With the idea was to make shopping accessible to people with disabilities in the country. We did a interesting program called Quiet Hour, which was a sensory friendly experience where we reduce sounds, light, and trolley movement. And let me tell you, 15,000 people with autism and neurodiversity entered our stores for the first time. Over 150,000 shoppers. And let me tell you, these shoppers had money, shopped in our stores. So again, if you look at the numbers, there are so many people, and brands have never viewed people with disability from a customer lens. They have always viewed them from a lens of sympathy, lens of CSR, but they have never tried to address this basic need gap. So this was the program. And after that, basically, I got overwhelming resumes of people with disabilities finding a job. And as you know, Rahul, we could only help 2 to 5 people, 10 people with my best of networks. But I was thinking of a more permanent solution. And if you look at it globally, there is no platform where you could, let's say, hire a sign language interpreter, hire a photographer, hire a graphic designer. So it's actually, we thought that why not find all the people who have abilities, and again, tell all the corporates that here is a platform which can actually get you skilled people with disabilities. And again, coming to the lens of ability, all the profiles on a platform, so basically showcases their abilities. Like for example, if you want to hire a singer, you could look at his singing abilities. So after going through a lot of resumes, I thought that why not create a platform to showcase the skills. And we started in this December, and it has only been 4 months of this platform being live. We have close to 500 skilled people with disabilities on our platform. We have 75 artists with disability who showcase like 340 artworks and very incredible stories. For example, Amazon hired their first model with learning disability. In spite of being so many years in the country, they never thought that, we could have a model with learning disability. So very interesting stories. People are getting opportunities. But if you look at it, I believe that this will actually transform the lens of people with disabilities from sympathy to empathy and focusing clearly on abilities of people. So that was journey in short of Born of Atypical Advantage.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's such an inspiring journey. And you hinted on things like purpose and trying to help others and looking at things not from a sympathy point of view, but from empathy point of view. Also looking at people with disabilities as customers and not just good to have charity, right? That you should do for people with disabilities. So thank you so much. That's so inspiring. With that, now I will open it to the floor. So if you have any question, you may unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. So we are waiting for that brave person who goes ahead and asks the first question. Okay, while they are thinking on the question, let me ask you a question. You talked about 130 million people, which is 10% of India's population, having disability. Now, that's a mind-blowing number. So could you tell us more about what exactly is a disability and what are the different kinds of disabilities? Because typically when we think of disability, we think of somebody who doesn't have a hand or a leg, right? That's about it. Or maybe if you stretch it a bit, somebody who can't see. But beyond that, we don't know. So can you tell us more about what exactly is disability and what are the different types of disabilities?
Sure. Rahul. So see, disability are two kinds. First is visible disability, which Rahul clearly mentioned about, a person who is a wheelchair user or a person who cannot see. Or even let's say, for example, if you look at invisible disability, how would you know if a person cannot hear? And there are so many hidden disabilities which are still not being talked about, like autism, Down syndrome, and these are again major disabilities which mainstream media has still not covered. So, and then there are learning disability, there is dyslexia. So coming to COVID, a lot of people, when they were locked down in homes, people thought that, oh, this is so struggling for being locked down in homes. But if you look at it, people with disabilities are locked down in homes for ages. And actually, COVID is a blessing, as well as it has, at least from an Indian context, a lot of struggles are there for people with disabilities. I'll explain you why I brought in COVID here, maybe because that will explain you all the disabilities and their struggles, plus give you a good insight about all the disabilities. So let me take one disability at a time and explain you what it is primarily. Again, first, let's take people with visual disability. Again, a very major disability of the country. And again, this is a spectrum. For example, there are people who could see 10%. There are people who are fully blind. There are people who are color blind. There might be people who are exactly in the middle. For example, if you look at my journey, at one point, I could make out faces. I could even play cricket. At that point, maybe I would have been classified as low vision. And I could even know what color the t-shirt is at one point. But right now, the vision has deteriorated significantly. So if you look at it, it's a spectrum. So you can't classify that how, let's say, 100% blind person is the same lens you can't fit in to a person who has 20% vision. Everyone has their unique way of doing things. So that is persons with visual disability for you. And in COVID, if you look at it, a lot of PPTs and attachments, the entire education.
Srinivas, could you please go on mute? Yeah, Vineet, you may continue, please.
Sorry. So basically, if you look at persons with visual disability, they have been affected widely during COVID because all the education is happening online, where a blind person might not understand what's going on with the presentations. And secondly, there are accessible technologies that might not be there. So you look, the gap has widened, but at the same time, there is so much opportunity with online learning, as well as companies telling you to work from home. That is a very important opportunity for a person with visual disability, because sometimes mobility is a challenge for them. Now coming to the next important disability, which is persons with hearing disability. Here, I would like to clarify one important thing, which maybe a lot of you would not know. When a child is born deaf, there might be a possibility that he could speak through therapies. Earlier you start the therapy, the chances is higher for a child to speak. But especially in the Indian setting, a lot of parents refuse to believe that my child is deaf, or they don't show to the doctor after, if the child has not started speaking after an appropriate age. And what happens in this process? The child who had that ability to speak does not speak. So, and again, primarily for people with hearing disability, they communicate through sign language. And for them, communication is a key challenge. And again, with COVID, you would not have seen education institutes or companies making sign language mandatory in their organizations. And again, people with hearing disabilities have suffered badly. So that is persons with hearing disability. The third major disability is persons with physical disability, which is wheelchair users, people using crutches, people on spinal cord injury. And let me tell you, this is another beauty of disability, that any one disability is probably the biggest minority, cutting across caste, cutting across creed, cutting across religion, because any one could be a person with disability, for example. And then there are a lot of temporary disability. For example, a woman who is pregnant is actually coming under temporary disability. Or if you have a fracture in your hand or leg, that also comes under temporary disability. So that is again the third major disability. With COVID, a lot of times this part also, has struggled in terms of getting basic access to medicine, grocery, and things like that. But here there is a huge opportunity with COVID and work from home, because now companies can, give more opportunities to any person with physical disability if they have the skills. Now coming to the disabilities which have not been talked about are persons with autism and Down syndrome. These are majorly hidden disabilities, and obviously dyslexia, persons with learning disability. These are individual disabilities. Like for example, autism is a spectrum. Like there is a quote in autism that if you have met one person with autism, you have met one person with autism. Sometimes, they are not very verbal and vocal on what they want, and therapy is very, very important, especially in the case of persons with autism, learning disability, Down syndrome at an early age. So, and acceptance is a very key for me. My life journey is all about accepting my eye condition completely, and it has taken me a long, long time. So hope, Rahul, I've answered your question.
Yeah, definitely you did. And we have Chetan Sehgal, who is IIM Bangalore 1992 batch. He has raised his hand. I believe he wants to ask a question. Chetan, you may go ahead and ask your question.
Thanks, Rahul. Nice to engage with you, Vineet. I think it was a good presentation. So it's very laudable, the kind of work you're doing. I just wanted to find out about, training people with disabilities. So are you also training them to make them more employable? Do you also have mentors on your platform who are actually training people with disabilities?
Yeah. So Chetan, in fact, a very interesting question. So I'll answer to you at least from our platform what we do. So one, we are like, for example, we have 69 volunteers on our platform. Like today only we got a mail saying that there is a teacher who would like to teach a person with disability on English skills. So there are a lot of volunteers who would like to train, but we primarily don't focus on that. In terms of training, a lot of partner NGOs focuses on training, but their major challenge has been how to place people with disability. For example, you will see so many great singers with disability in the country with amazing skills, but they are not able to find work. Just to take a case, there are 5,000 blind massagers who are trained and certified to do different kinds of massages in the country, but they don't know what to do. Again, they are from vernacular medium. They know how to massage, foot massage, body massage, but they don't know where should I reach to customers. So our platform is bridging that gap where you're signing up all the massagers in the country and you can transparently look at them and book a massage where they come to your home and do the thing. So we primarily focus on reaching out and giving them economic empowerment. For example, look at all the artists with disability. We don't train any of the artists. We are mere platforms where they showcase their skills and people can buy artwork. So this is what we are doing. Having said that, a lot of training needs to go, especially in the gig economy workforce, like areas such as coding, graphic designing, even digital marketing. A lot of these areas have come up where people with disabilities needs to be skilled and trained further.
Right. And therefore you are saying that you have engaged with other NGOs who are actually giving you the CVs or resumes of these people, and you are trying to place them.
Yes. Yeah. Like I in fact, today's Labor Day, I forgot to in fact tell about our campaign which we have started. So we have 150 sales executives on our platform. These are primarily entry-level positions in telecalling, receptionist, or all the back-end IT, warehouse, inventory. So we have like 150 sales executives who want to get placements, and we have kick-started this campaign this week. And our idea is to place all the 150 people in May. And hopefully we are already close to placing 20 out of the 150.
Great, great. That's lovely.
Great. Thanks, Vineet. Yeah.
Anybody else has a question? I think
No,
Malika.
sorry. I have one more. Can I do that, Rahul? And yeah?
Sure, Chetan, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah. No. So the other question was, how can anybody outside who's not? I mean, one is you can obviously look at these candidates for hiring them, but how can somebody outside really help you in the platform which you have set up?
So Chetan, if you have like for example, we encourage any kind of like skills if you would like to help persons with disability take that skill. Second, obviously, like you could pass this on to corporates, because this is a very democratic way of like giving jobs. Like now corporates are coming up and telling us, give me content writers with disability, or give me a digital marketer with disability. So you could maybe pass this word. That is probably the second way you could assist. And third is, again, if you have like any personal interest where you could contribute, please write to us. More than happy.
Do you need financial help as well?
This is like putting me on the spot. So Rahul,
you have somebody who is from 1992 batch, almost 25 years your senior. So you could make your pitch now.
So I think once people go through the platform, the answer to it is, I think serendipity will help it, Rahul. So like it has been 4 months, and that is the same question when we started the journey, and a lot of like contributions have poured even without mentioning it. But yeah, we are looking for financial support because we believe that this is a very scalable idea. And like yesterday, I was speaking to one of my senior mentors, and he said that probably Indian talent with disability could go global. For example, there was a London-based founder who hired a graphic designer with autism from Delhi for his work. So there is probably enough case studies to prove that why not only Indian corporates, it could be global diaspora, which could give work with entire gig economy, freelancing coming up. So yeah, if someone believes in the business model, more than happy to discuss further.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
We have somebody who went to school with you at IIM Bangalore, Malika Arjun. He has a question. Malika Arjun, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks Rahul for this session, and hi Vineet, glad to connect again. Vineet, my question is around this fact, right? So at least to my mind, the biggest blocker in considering people with disabilities in terms of any specific roles or employment opportunities would be that the employer's way of thinking, or the employer's ability to think about people who can manage their work even with disabilities, right? So how do you go about creating awareness on that aspect to the prospective clients or people who would want to employ persons with disabilities probably?
So I'll give you the most honest answer to this question. A lot of organizations would tell to do sensitization and awareness sessions. Obviously that helps, but I think the best practical answer to that is start with internships. Start with a 2-month internship, hire a person with disability. Employers are also, more reluctant to hire interns in that role, and that like improves the mindset of that employer significantly. I'll just give you my own example. I used to report to the CEO of Big Bazaar, and like I presented data analytics and regression based things in my first presentation when I joined the firm. And people gave me standing ovation and a lot of claps and things like that. But if you look at it, for their lens, they had never seen a person with disability working on Excel. For them, that was a big thing. And again, doing regression, which is like, I'm very sure people could not imagine, right? But from an IIM Bangalore candidate, I'm very sure that is pretty normal. So if you look at it, that is the level which like maybe the employers have. So they don't have high expectations from a person with disability. So which I think also needs to improve. at the same time, people with disabilities also needs to, improve their skills. And then there are enough tools to do that. So if you would like to start in your firm, start with a 2-month internship program. Don't chase numbers again, saying that, we want 1% of the workforce to be people with disability. Then there are mere numbers and you're chasing numbers. Start small, start maybe just hiring one person, because imagine in that entire company, I was the first person in the mid management to come in, and suddenly presenting to the CEO, the entire lens suddenly changed with just one employee. And you look at the difference which it's there. So many people with disabilities are able to shop across the country with just one employee coming to the system and changing the entire mindset of the company. So yeah, start small, don't chase numbers, and start with, again, small nudges. Like, for example, you could even have, like, when your internal employee shows and things like that, have a person with disability, have a singer with disability. Don't try to make it a disability affair. Like, for example, if you are having a comedy show for your employees, why not invite a comedian with, let's say, visual disability, where he speaks about comedy and, just triggers your employees in a deeper way.
Got it.
Sure. Thank you. Any other
Thanks, Vinit.
questions? If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask.
I have a question.
Yeah, Sneha, go
Yeah,
ahead.
please go ahead.
Who was the other one apart from Sneha?
Hey, Karthik.
Hi,
I have a
Karthik.
question.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, Vinit, good to see your journey and very inspiring. So I just have one question. Since you said the upskilling part is something, as you said, many people doesn't believe or have not seen with people with disability having the capacity or the capability to deliver. And people were surprised when you went and pitched with CEO, right? So how this is upskilling is, other than, providing as a training, whatever. Today, the technology companies, right? So as you know, there is not a significant market for disability people to build something which will work for them. For example, even reading, right? I don't know about today. There are a lot of startups who are in the mainstream consumer, where they want to just go and chase the numbers, chase the market of bigger size. But you said there are significant people with disability and there is a sizable market for it. So what do you see, right? Today, is there a startup which can do something about it, or even some of the startups which are building in mainstream consumer business, right? Can they think of such scenarios and build something specifically for this segment? And is there a business outcome or a value that can be generated as a profit also?
Completely. So just to give you complete statistics, we had 7,500 disabilities, people with disabilities shopping on a single day, which generated sales of 3 crore in one day across the country. And now coming to your core question, let me tell you, all the companies like technology companies, which have invested in solving for people with disabilities, they have actually reaped huge benefit in terms of purely sales. For example, look at the typing prediction in your keyboards, right? Which was initially designed for people with learning disability. Look at the entire features, like voice is now coming up in such a huge way. The companies which invested heavily in voice was initially solving for people with disabilities. The SMS service which you see is actually been designed initially for deaf people. This entire assistance which has come right now, which is mainstream, was initially designed for people with disabilities. Like, for example, when you create ramps in public spaces, that ramp is also being used by senior citizens, has also been used by people like pregnant women, and also benefits any person with temporary disability. Same way, for example, a Google or Amazon or a Microsoft actually does not look at disability from that lens. The companies which innovate with disability or come out with solutions actually help a wider set of audience. We might not know the exact numbers. For example, font, color contrast in all the web pages is actually designed for people with disability, but I'm very sure everyone uses these color schemes on their, and for example, the biggest audio books Audible has come up is again, that was an example of innovation which was designed for people with disabilities. So if you think it from that lens, it actually helps a lot of people. Like for example, when I taught voiceover to a senior citizen whose eyes is completely fine, he has started regularly using the audio thing for doing his daily course. So yeah, I think disability leads to innovation, and if you want to stay ahead of your curve, I think focus on solutions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Really, really helpful. Yeah.
Sneha, you had a question. You may go ahead, please.
Yes, thanks, Rahul. So, Vineet, what is the major challenge that typical advantage is facing at this point? And overall, how do you reach out to the PWDs to enter into this platform?
So yeah, I think it's a interesting question. So as even Karthik mentioned, we are facing problems in terms of supply, on the supply side of getting highly skilled people with disabilities. So that is one area. The second area is also, trying to spread awareness about the platform and helping people to list on the platform. That is again a huge challenge with a lot of people with disabilities not knowing computers and things like that. And yeah, the third thing is, I think COVID, the overall market is not still the best. So like we have a lot of artworks on our platform which we're trying to market to hospitality and retail. So that is, yeah, so primarily this is there. And on the corporate side also, a lot of mind blockage is still there from a corporate point of view to hire people with disabilities. So we need to change that in a lot of employers. And I think it's a journey. For example, I'm very sure anyone looking at this entire disability journey has to also look at a journey when women were never part of the workforce. In 1980s, there were no washrooms also for women in colleges. But right now, after 40 years, a lot of things have changed. And no one even asks, like, are women more productive than men? In fact, there have been researchers to prove that women are more productive than men in certain kinds of roles. So I believe that that is also a journey, and probably 10, 15 years down the line, you'll see a lot of case studies where you'll see, like, there is a school of thought, like, which believes that everyone is good at something. For example, people with autism are very great at repetitive work. And again, not stereotyping that, but maybe that is the edge. SAP has utilized that very beautifully. And then again, there are a lot of hotels which have hired deaf people. For example, to give our example, we have seen that our cashiers with hearing disability are 2x faster than a so-called non-disabled cashier.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. May I ask?
Yes, Akshaya, please go ahead.
Good morning. So it was great hearing your experience and the challenges that you go through at Atypical Advantage. And I also thank Gyanology for hosting this session. I'm a special educator, and I've been working with people with special needs for over 6 years now in training and teaching them. And now, in fact, I'm planning to bring as a training institute wherein I can collaborate and bring in more people to train across various skills. So the question that I have for you is, what is the typical challenge that I'm potentially going to face, because I'm looking at those courses which would help in direct integration in the market, in the working space, to establish an inclusive workspace. So being a mediator between the potential candidates and the employers, what is the challenge that I would face or I would go through while getting into inclusive workspace?
There are, I think this is it will require a very long discussion, but like, for example, if you see, obviously the mindset of the employers might not be open. Second, as you were saying, that there would be a huge problem in terms of supply side challenges in terms of sourcing, teaching people skills. For example, I'll just give you my example of graphic designers. Take, for example, a category like graphic designers. You'll hardly find 40, 50 graphic designers with disability in this entire country of 1.3 billion population. So, you know, the groundwork needs to be there, and you'll you'll understand it when you started that like probably because the starting point was never the same. If you look at the gap has widened because the Indian schooling system, if you look, has never incorporated disabled people. So the gap has anyways widened, but for a corporate, it does not matter for them. They would see that, you know, get this work done. So you need to, you know, work hard with your candidates in these kind of roles. And also, I think a lot of roles are becoming redundant after COVID. So finding those skills which the employers want would be crucial.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Anybody else has a question? Okay, if nobody has a question, I have a question. Vineet, tell us some of the interesting moments that you have had. I'm sure you have had more than fair share of yours.
Yeah, so I think for me, I just love cycling. So I've cycled 5,000 kilometers on the tandem bike, and I'll just give you an interesting experience. So I went with the Lieutenant General of Indian Army and the head of Southern Command. His name is Surendra Nath. And I went with him on a tandem bike from Manali to Khardungla. It's a 550 kilometer stretch. And Khardungla is the world's highest motorable road at, I think, 17,000 feet. And I was cycling, and there was this pass called Baralacha Pass. And so I and General had this rule that, you know, we are cyclists and we'll cycle the entire route, no matter whatever happens. We will never walk, and we'll never take a bus or a car to get any assistance, whatever happens. And basically, we were in the middle of Baralacha Pass, and probably we were the only cyclist across that batch who cycled that entire route. And as you know, in the hills, cycling in uphill is a huge challenge. You'll prefer walking over cycling in some cases. So after, you know, cycling 10 kilometers uphill in the pass, like a few other cyclists stopped for having Maggie. And basically I am young, and let me tell you, generally 62 years of age. So I also wanted to have Maggie, and he refused, saying that no, we need to go down. And as you know, it's like people rest in lower elevations, and it's not the best strategy to have Maggie at a higher elevation from a rational point of view, and especially considering we were cycling the entire stretch. So he did not allow me, and I cried in the cycle. And he got afraid of me, saying that, oh, next time I'll make you have a good Maggie. That is one thing which I always remember from my cycling experience. Now coming to another experience of how my parents' lens have flipped. So I was participating in an ultra endurance cycling race, which was a race from Pune to Goa. So it is a non-stop 640 kilometers race. We had to take the route from Pune to Satara, sort of a thing. And we had cycled the entire day. And at 1 a.m. in the night, imagine in the traffic. So we started our journey 4 a.m. from Pune. I think we crossed Mahabaleshwar, and it was like roughly 230 to 40 kilometers. So basically I called my father basically called at the night, and he said that, where are you guys? I said that, you know, we are like 230 kilometers. And he said, and it's 1 a.m. in the night. So typically I like thought that my parents would shout at me that, yo, please drive safely, a lot of trucks are coming and things like that. And they said, boss, you are very slow, you only travel to 30 kilometers, what are you doing so much, you have lost so much time. So that lens from being afraid, like forget disability, I'm very sure any parent would get afraid if the child is cycling for from morning in the night, rather than appreciating me saying that, oh, you have done well with 30 kilometers. And he says that, no, you have need to more to go and you're very slow. So yeah, that these two are something which I'll always cherish.
Right, right. That's very interesting. That's anything from IIM Bangalore when you were there. Anything interesting happened, or any? Let me flip it. You're telling all the good stories. Let me flip it. Any insensitive stories?
Maybe it was like, I think Quants. I think Rahul, you'll know Subabrato Das, and
let's not take people's name. Is it he's a professor or he's a student?
He's a professor. It's not a bad story though.
Okay, go ahead.
No. So nothing. I think not insensitive. I think I struggled in this course initially, first 10 classes. I think, but as such, and I think yeah, a lot of friends actually taught me that, and finally scraped through that course. Nothing. I can't recall anything at this point.
Okay. And how do you? Your brother has the same condition you mentioned, and he's 1 year younger to you.
Yeah, 1.5 years. Yeah,
1.5 year younger to you, and both of you were studying together in IIM Bangalore. Was the experience very similar, or did you have different experiences in terms of the challenges that you face and in terms of the opportunities that you got?
No, the challenges were very similar, but we both have different interests. Like he's interested into finance, where I was more inclined towards marketing, and probably yeah, I think he was extremely maybe more sharp than me as such. But in terms of challenges, it was very similar. But one plus point of having a brother with a similar disability is, I think, yeah, you can resonate with each other in terms of your own struggles, which no one else probably would know. So that is there.
Right. Anybody has a question? Okay, so Vineet, I'll go ahead. I'll ask you, in your journey, who are some of the interesting people that you have met, some of the inspiring people that have influenced your work today?
So for me, it's one is Venkat Krishnan. He is the founder of Give India. I am Ahmedabad alumni. His work has actually moved me. Organization in the country, and plus being so selfless. And he has also mentored, like for example, when I reach out to him for help, you'll always see people who have their own agendas, and as you see, like, you know, everything is about transactions. But when I met him, I realized that, you know, I was initially blown away that why is this guy helping me without any agenda, without any monetary gains. And for example, the thing which he keeps on talking, like if you ask him that please join my advisory board, he said, okay, what is the work you need to get out of me? If you say, okay, this is the work, he'll say, oh, I can do this without the advisory board. So that's something very nice, and I've not seen so many people like him. Actually, very few, probably like hardly 10-15 in this entire country put together. And I like just follow him for any advice, and his journey is something very remarkable, very selfless. And yeah, like, and he works really hard, like, and so that keeps me going. So the other one is obviously my brother, in terms of sheer hard work, and being as you know, Rahul, investment banking is a very demanding profession. Working hard, again, without seeing the screen, doing Excel and complex financial pitch books and models is not very easy. And without eyesight, I can just relate to the challenges. So yeah, these two people are like, for me, very big inspirations in my life.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Do we have any questions? Okay, so Vineet, this is my last question to you. You like to trek and hike. How different or difficult is it for someone like you as opposed to, let's say, others?
See, it is difficult. I'll just tell you a story that just differentiates foolishness from, doing what you need to do. So I was trekking Harishchandragarh, when there was a rock climb, like a 90-degree climb. A lot of people have even died. And imagine non-disabled people have died, and it is a tough trek. And I just gone in that, initial adrenaline rush and adventure that no, nothing will happen. Let's go and trek. And for me, a sense of touch is very important. So how I climb is basically, feeling the rocks, and that I've learned through practice and sometimes holding my friends during the trek. So because you cannot see, so it's difficult. So I was climbing this rock 90-degree. You could fall down at any point, and there is no chance of getting a support from your friends, because it's a difficult climb for them also. So my friends had reached the top and they were instructing me, go left, go right, move like this, and I was just following it with my hands and legs. But yeah, after doing that, I also had this inhibition that how will I return back and all that. Luckily, everything went well. I returned back down safely. But that, if I look at it right now, I think that was utter foolishness and stupidity from my side. I would not advise anyone to take such adventures and take that risk. It's not at all worth, and it's a huge risk to your life. So never do such kind of things which puts your life in danger, knowing your eye condition, because everything has limitations. I'm very sure everyone has their own limitations in life, and we should not just go with that initial adventure and let our rational mind take over such kind of things.
Sure. Thank you so much. So thank you so much for spending an hour with us. There was a very interesting journey and a lot of insights for me. So my 3 takeaways are the following. Something I learned today, that disability are 4 types: visible, invisible, hidden, and temporary. So visible is the most obvious one. When you see somebody who doesn't have a leg or doesn't have an arm, that is visible. It's obviously very visible and you can make out. Then there is the invisible one, which is things like people who cannot hear. You cannot tell upfront that this person is disabled. And beyond that, there is hidden, which is things like learning disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, dyslexia. And then there is temporary disability, which until now I did not consider it a disability, but now I understand that if you have a fracture or if you're pregnant, that in a sense, yes, it is a temporary disability. So thank you so much for telling about 4 kinds of disabilities. The second takeaway for me was that people with disabilities do not need your sympathy, they need your empathy. So try to empathize with them. If you're trying to help them, do not chase numbers. Just try to make sure that you are getting the right person to the right job, and even one person can make a difference the way you made the difference in Big Brother. That was the second takeaway for me. And lastly, this is again something I did not know, that a lot of innovation that we see today, whether it's SMS, whether it's voice, whether it's predictive typing, whether it's ramps, whether it's audiobooks, I did not know that these were initially aimed at people with disabilities. And today, look at the business. Audible is a big business. Predictive typing is something which all of us have gotten used to. Ramps, which are built for people with mobility disabilities, are now used by pregnant ladies and by senior citizens. Voice has come up in a big way. So thank you so much for educating us about innovation that can happen when you're trying to solve for people with disabilities. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rahul, for inviting me. I think it was a pleasure and a joy. And yeah, and also a pleasure reconnecting after so many years, and hope I was able to add value and bring a new perspective towards things. So thank you for this.
Thank you so much. We're always looking for inspiring people like yourself. We haven't talked much in the campus because you are not in the same section as I, but I've interacted with your brother and he's such an amazing person. So thank you so much for bringing this inspiring story to our audience. So if you liked our session, this session was live on Facebook. So do like the page, do share this session with your friends. Thank you so much and stay safe in this COVID environment. Thank you.